What it do, y'all? She got Bendu coming at y'all with another video today. And today we're going to be doing a review of episode 3 of Daredevil. So just continuing off of the episode 1 and 2 premiere. Like I said in that review, I saw there was a lot of people, not really digging it. And, I started seeing more of that sentiment expressed online. And as I said in that video, I get it. And as I said in the extendo clip review, which you can go watch, you can click the link above. Yeah, and go check that out. But I get that, and a lot of people's trepidations of this show are still persisting because it's not like the Netflix show, but which I agree with. I think that there are a lot of differences between this iteration of the show and the previous Netflix show. But like I said, I'm still enjoying it, and episode 3 continued that. Like, I would say I like the show a lot. I wouldn't say I loved it. I love it yet, but with this episode, I really enjoy seeing Matt Murdock like be a lawyer, and I feel like that's something that they didn't really do too much of in the Netflix series. Like it always revolved around Matt being a lawyer as it connected to Daredevil, like him taking on clients to help him in his mission as Daredevil at night, or Matt taking on the Punisher case because he felt like him and Punisher, just the whole concept and relationship and dynamic going on between those two. I always felt like they showed Foggy doing more of the stuff that Matt and that Nelson and Murdock was supposed to be, Foggy and Karen, more so than Matt. Whereas it was really cool to see Matt, the lawyer side of Matt, and get the whole lawyer jargon. And it's kind of fascinating because I remember when the original show got shelved. So like they filmed like 6 episodes or whatever, and Feige and Marvel was like, hey, this isn't working. And around when the writer strikes were taking place, they kind of took that opportunity to basically fire everybody that was working on the show and retool it and bring back the Marvel or the Netflix Punisher people to come in and retool the show. And but a lot of the reports that were coming out was that that version of the show was going to be more of a legal procedural type of show, and he wasn't going to be in the suit as often. And look, this is the 2nd episode in a row he hasn't been in the suit, so it's like I'm kind of wondering if they kept some aspects of that original version of the show and continued it on here. But it's very much welcome for me and very in line with the character of Daredevil if you've actually read Daredevil comic books, because Born Again, for example, which this show is named after, he's not in the costume very much. In that, like, literally his costume was burned in his apartment when Kingpin blew up his apartment in that series, I believe. So it's been a while. I gotta reread Born Again. It's been a while. I literally haven't read Born Again probably since sophomore year of high school, maybe junior year or something like that. So I'm definitely due for a rereading of that comic book. But let me know if I should do it here on the channel. I'm thinking about it. But so seeing him represent Hector, who is the White Tiger, and going through the whole process of doing that is very fascinating. And then obviously the dynamics between Matt and Hector are so similar, with them both being vigilantes. And then seeing how this case is very personal to Matt because of that. Like, they have subtle hints of how, and even in episode 2 they did this, they had subtle hints of how Hector's double life has, kind of possibly put a, strain on his family. I wish we could have gotten more of that, but, and I feel like Matt can kind of relate to that. But, just the overall progression of this story, highlighting the corrupt nature of the cops, but also that Punisher sect of the cops, like the Punisher gang, which is very much in line with something that a problem that's been persisting in the real world with some police departments and things like that. So I like how they're tying that in and things like that. But overall, like, I like the delivery of those aspects. I liked how Matt carries himself in the courtroom as well. You can tell he brings that. Matt is a very charming guy. He's a very charming person. I mean, he's Mr. Bitches. Like, excuse my language, but the ladies be on Matt for a reason. And you could tell that he kind of injects that into his job as a lawyer. And, it kind of helps, like, you know, the way he's pitching Hector Ayala's case, you know, how he has this yearning to help people after later on. I'll get to that part, but, you know, because of him being White Tiger and things like that, and positing this story to the, you know, to the jury. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, damn, yo, this motherfucker telling a very, I might, you know, may have to let this bull off. You feel me? But, you know, going into the whole concept of Matt revealing his identity, though, that was one of the things that I didn't know how I felt about that. Like, not in terms of like the way it was delivered. Like, the way it was delivered was cool. It's just like, for Matt as a character, I'm like, dog, that's kind of fucked up. How would you feel if somebody did that to you as Daredevil? You feel me? I get that you're trying to help him. I get that you're trying to get him, you know, get him off. And in all honesty, you know, the tainting of his witness by the police force, by the police department, is the reason why he was forced into a situation to reveal Hector's identity as the White Tiger, which I felt like they could have talked more about, but I feel like they're gonna deal with more of that later on in the season with the whole corrupt cops. They didn't want to, you know, go too far into that, you know, as of right now. But yeah, but because like, and I was watching Screen Crush, I believe it was, and they did a video, and they have like a lawyer guy on there. He actually is a lawyer, but he just, you know, he's a nerd too. He's a comic book fan too, and he was explaining how, you know, it's not necessarily grounds for disbarring Matt for like breaking the rules and how he did, because we remember he sat down with the judge and, you know, pre-trial, and was like, yo, Hector's identity as the White Tiger shouldn't be discussed during the case, because what matters most about this case is what happened that night, you know, on that train platform. That is all that matters about this case. Anything else is, you know, just grounds for, you know, whatever the legal jargon and terminology is. But then Matt goes back on that because he's forced into a position where he has to present the argument in a way where the reason why Hector decided to intervene with what was happening on the train platform is because of his dual identity as White Tiger, and thus he had no malicious intent for what happened on there, for what happened on the train platform. It was his yearning to help people, which is what led him to do, you know, to hop in and help that guy that was being beat up by, you know, what he later found out to be were police officers, because they were plain clothes cops, as we know. So that was very compelling stuff. And then bringing in the political aspect at the end with Fisk, you know, and how we know that Fisk is trying to push this anti-vigilante stance and things like that. So, you know, Hector, you know, spoiler alert, Hector getting off at the end kind of puts a damper on that, in a sense, to, you know, what Fisk was saying and his outrage towards it and things like that. Now, the way they edited the show, I will say, like, at the end, so you know, like I said, spoiler alert, Hector ends up getting killed in the end, you know, because his identity is revealed now, and one of the corrupt cops goes after him. They want you to kind of, like, I feel like they know that we know it's not Frank, but they kind of like, hey, it could be Frank. Ooh. But everybody's like, yo, that Frank didn't do that shit, you know. Punisher didn't do that shit. But regardless, the way they edited that scene, they crafted that scene, they wanted to make it seem like Fisk had something to do with those corrupt cops going after Hector, and that very well may be the case, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think Fisk sent that cop after Hector. I think that cop, you know, because the police don't fuck with Hector, so they went and did it on their own volition outside of Fisk. It just so happens, you know, that this kind of aligns with Fisk's stance on the vigilantes, you know, getting them the fuck out of here and things like that. Now, Fisk isn't saying I want to kill these guys, which we know he probably, if he could kill Matt and Daredevil without any consequences of that, he would. But, you know, regardless, and I would say it's the same with White Tiger, but regardless, I think the way they kind of were doing a fake out with is deceptive at the thing we see you, Marvel. They want you to kind of believe Fisk has something to do with it, but I don't think he does, because, call me crazy, I still have this belief that Fisk is genuine in wanting to try things a different way. I feel like in his mind, I tried to go about the criminal route and, you know, doing some illegal shady shit to bring about the change I want to see. I tried to buy the change I wanted to see. I've tried every single way except for going through the system. So you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to do what y'all do it the right way. Go through the system like y'all keep telling me to do, to bring about the change I want to see. And I think that we're going to slowly see that the bureaucratic nightmare that is, you know, city politics you know, is just going to bring out that ruthless nature within him. And then that in tandem with, you know, us, I think we're going to find out Vanessa had something to do with Foggy's death, but I'm going to do that in a theory video. That theory video is coming, y'all. You know, it's on its way, but I think that like we're going to see a slow descent of Fisk kind of being, you know what, fuck this, man, I'm going back to being Kingpin. I'm doing some illegal shady shit. I think we're going to see about, you know, season 2, given the set photos we're seeing from them shooting season 2 of the show now. So, you know, I think, and it's very compelling storytelling, and that I feel like that is what is being carried over from the Netflix show, is the compelling nature of the villains. This is very like out of the ordinary for Marvel, especially, you know, the MCU proper, and, you know, allocating this type of time to a villain in terms of Kingpin. But you have to, because one of the hallmarks of the Daredevil show are the villains, specifically Kingpin. So I really enjoyed this episode. Obviously, you know, the whole situation with Hector being killed is very sad, because then at the end, the end credit scene, they play like the frogs from Puerto Rico, so they kind of transport you to the, you know, the beaches of Puerto Rico, where he was talking about he would hear these frogs make the noises, and I think it was like whistling or whatever the sound was. And, you know, it was a very sad death, man. It was a gut punch, and I think that's going to spur Matt into, I don't know if it's going to get him back into the suit, but I think it's going to be one of those big, you know, those big linchpins that, you know, does eventually get him back into the suit. So yeah, that being said, guys, what matters most is, and what I care about most is, what did you guys think of the episode? So hop down in the comment section and let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and share. Emphasis on all that. Here on the Filmmatic, we're gonna be having some more videos coming for y'all, like extendo clip. We going, you know, we shooting and going, trying to get it out to y'all as fast as we can. We're gonna work on trying to get a schedule, you know, like a drop schedule for you guys, and, you know, maybe I'll post it in the description of the channel or whatever, so just look out for that. But it's gonna be some things coming to the channel, some announcements coming to the channel as well from me and Wrapped Out Shizz from Extendo Clip. By the way, for the episode 1 and 2 of Daredevil, I know I did a solo dolo review, but go check out the review I did with Shizz and our homie Gravity the Beast on Daredevil episode 1. That's out right now. We also did like a ranking of the Friday movies and things like that. Go check out that episode as well. And I think that's all. That's it. Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share again. And yeah, peace.